thousands of Ekiti State residents in southwestern Nigeria will go to the polls tomorrow to elect a new governor among 16 politicians seeking to lead the state. As preparations for a credible, free and fair election continues, a coalition of security forces have been mobilized ahead of the election in Ekiti State. They assured the public of safety during after the polls, but urged support from the electorate for a hitch-free electoral exercise. Our correspondent, Niyi Oyelowo, is in Ekiti State now and it joins us. Great to have you, Niyi. Can you give us an update on INEC state of preparedness, Niyi?
Good morning, Rufai, Dr. Bati, and of course, Tudu. Well, currently, there was yesterday and on to till today, there was a frenzy of activities at INEC headquarters. Arise was there. We monitored the proceedings. There was also a large contingent of security forces being mobilized. There was also a large contingent of ad hoc staff, INEC officials as well. And incidentally, the sensitive materials were also being collated and being loaded onto trucks and vehicles onward to the places where they will be needed, the local governments as it were. And of course, incidentally, there were also international election observers also at the INEC headquarters, specifically some contingents of the US consulate. We saw their vehicles come in, and also they also went into to the building to see how the materials are being collated and how they're being transported for onward delivery to where they will be needed. Police units, special forces were on ground to escort all of these materials to their preferred destinations. And you would realize that, you know, it's a very important election. It's an off-season election, and there's a lot at stake here, as it were. Hopefully we'll get you more reports regarding that. I sent one, but we're having some network issues. But hopefully we'll get that resolved soon. But that's just the general, scenario here in Ekiti State. There's an upbeat scenario. People are trying to get things done the way they should. INEC has also assured on, the ability to deliver on free and credible elections. And there's no doubt in my mind with the level of what we saw on ground in terms of their preparedness, they're actually on point here. So basically for INEC, all is well for now. In terms of contingency, I asked regarding if there should be any need for setbacks or what they should fall upon, and they also assured that to a large extent they have prepared well for that as well. Back to you.
Well, 177 words, 2,442 polling units. The Inspector General of Police says the police are ready. Now, what have we observed with regard to security arrangements? Not just the police, who else is on the ground? Is the military, civil defense? Any update on that?
Very good, Dr. Abati. All those units you mentioned, including more, there's some special units we've never actually seen before, they're also on ground. Now, I'm going to go on some specifics here. I remember you asking me yesterday, and we followed this up on the issue, the skirmish at the SDP political rally involving, that's Segun Oni's party, one of the major contenders here in Ekiti. And to a large extent, at a briefing, because they had a stakeholders meeting between the coalition, security forces, police, and those forces you mentioned, and of course political parties as well, and other stakeholders, indigenous election observers. And I posed that question to the Commissioner of Police, Baron Koji Additional. Of course, his boss at the event, that is the DIG Johnson Kokumo. He is the coordinator of the security coalition at that meeting, and of course for the election as well. And what he said was that any crime against, involving an individual that dies is also a crime against the state. And to a large extent, they were aware of what happened at that rally involving the death of one person generally. And of course, they're doing, the investigation is still on that currently. So he laid rest to speculations that, probably the police are not investigating that, but he assured that all is being done to get to the bottom of the issue. And incidentally, I also spoke with the SDP chairman. He is Dele Ekwonla for Ekiti State. He's not too happy with the way the police are handling that scenario, that particular scenario. And he said that's not the first time they've been attacked by, APC stalwarts. According to him, we can't independently verify that because we weren't there. So he said APC had been doing untoward things towards their rallies and, any efforts to get the attention of the electorate on their side. So to a large extent, he's not too happy with the level of investigation by the police. But generally, all the exit points and entry points into Ekiti and its environs are being manned by the soldiers. You have zigzag, border posts that prevents cars from just entering without being checked. And of course, I think it's quite strategic that you have the military at the forefront of those security arrangements. So entry points, exit points are being banned by infantry and some armored divisions as well. In fact, there are even some armored vehicles we've never actually seen, high-tech, that we don't even know. They might not be quite prominent here. So to a large extent, that's been done. The police is also handling a majority of the security within the Ekiti itself and also other environments. It's still a joint effort. Civil defense are also on ground, as there's so many of them. Even to a large extent, the hotel we're staying, we have a contingent of that unit also around, as it were. So to a large extent, there's a heavy security presence here in Ekiti and of course around Ekiti itself, and they're doing their utmost to ensure a H-free election. But they're also urging people to also relate with them, give them information regarding any form of skirmish whatsoever that might affect the progress of the elections, as it were. So in terms of security, there's a lot being done by the authorities. There's a lot of coordination. I also spoke with the DIG, and he also affirmed that the allowances of the security personnel are also being paid as when due, and there shouldn't be any form of untoward, behavior on their part as well. So to a large extent, he also mentioned the fact that there shouldn't be any armed personnel that are close to the election, units, as it were, for reasons best known to them. But you want to ask the question that how will this instill confidence on the electorate, just to prevent any form of negative reaction by some individuals. But to a large extent, a lot has been done to ensure that security is on ground, as it were. And anywhere you go in Ekiti, especially at Ekiti, you find contingents of security personnel at almost every corner, as it were.
Well, thank you so much for those important details, Niyi. And speaking of the electorate, what's their mood towards the polls? Briefly, please.
All right, Tundu. There's a general sensitization regarding people to get their PVC and to ensure that they vote to their conscience. And to a large extent, Ekiti State is not an exception here. There's a massive sensitization for people to get their PVC, and the mood generally is that people want to vote. The enthusiasm, you can feel it. We've asked a lot of people, what are their perception or what's going on towards the elections, and they're also upbeat about them voting. And they're, as of yesterday, there was still a lot of political rallies and people going about doing their stuff just to get people to get in the mood to vote. Initially, when you go around, there's that perception that all is quiet and there's not much sensitization being done. But to a large extent, when you talk to people, they are aware of the elections and they are upbeat about participating in those elections and, of course, fulfilling their franchise in this.
All right, thank you so much, Niyi, for your time.